Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I think I am live. Good morning. Good to see you. Good to see you. Happy Wednesday. I'm a bit of a hot mess again, as you can see. It's hot. It's so hot, but it's nice and cool in here. I hope you're all doing well. From what I understand across the board, this is the hottest day so far in this stretch of crazy hot days. But I have so much news for you, and let's have fun together in the heat. Anita, it's good to see you. Anita, I loved what you posted, your piece where you were standing there. And I also loved that photo of you. It was a great photo of you. It was so nice to see that post. Oh, it's raining in Ontario. The trees are, uprooted yesterday. Oh, okay. So sounds a bit wild. It sounds a bit wild. What's going on up there, huh? Still raining. Holy moly's. That's very different than what we're getting. Isn't it crazy? We're not even that far apart. Well, I guess relatively we are far apart. I mean, the moon is much further, but I always think that you're not that far away, but you are a ways away. And I haven't been to Toronto for so long. But you're in Ontario. You're in Ontario, right? Okay, sorry. I'm stopping. I got to get my geography set. I hope they open the border soon for Canada because I am ready. I am ready to just get in the car and go. Kira, I know you're at work, but you have some free time. I love you. I love to see you. Sunny and hot. There is the fireball that we all feel. It is hot. My word. Carol, good to see you for a couple of days. Oh, Carol, we missed you. Oh, 75 is nice in Wisconsin. That is civilized. That is much better than what we're getting here. It is just clammy skins, you know. You're just clamming it up as soon as you walk out of the house. You start sweating it up. I just changed into this dress a minute ago, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Horrible view this morning, but anyway, just look at the dress rather than my face. It's not one of my better beauty days by any means. Anita says lots of wind, many trees uprooted. That is just awful, isn't it? The road to Leamington. Not one drop of, okay. Oh, man. Yeah, keep us updated, Anita. Make sure you post on Facebook, you know, everything's all right and all that. Linda, good to see you. Good to see you. Kirsten, great to see you too. I have so much news. Let's see where to begin. Cindy, great to see you. We're all getting something crazy weather-wise. April, great to see you. Robin, Suze, hello in Kansas. Joy, I'm working on your pattern. Yours and Robin, I'm working because you both got Abenaki rugs. I'm working on those huge scale rugs today, getting those patterns out the door. Oh man. Yeah, do I have any rugs to show today? I do. I usually do, don't I? I'm such a pig. Good morning, Beverly. You know, I noticed some of my good buddies from here I wasn't actually friends with on Facebook, so I did some friending. Beverly, I friended you this morning on Facebook. I hope that's okay. Sometimes, and Kirsten too, I was like, how are we not friends already? This is crazy. So I was doing a bit of friending. You know how if you're on Facebook, they suggest that you friend some people and then and then they give you suggestions for other people you should friend. And usually the suggestions of friends are people I don't know at all, and I have accidentally friended some just out of the stupidness of not having my glasses on and my big fat fingers on this little tiny phone. But all of the friending I did this morning was intentional. I love to be regular friends as well as ribbon candy hooking friends. Amber, good to see you. Crazy heat wave. And Lori, you are in Texas. Lori, what's the weather like in Texas? Did you tell us? I think Joss asked the other day, right? It was surprisingly not so bad then, and I hope that's the same now. Looking festive. Thank you, Kira. You know, the company LuLaRoe has like a dress for every occasion, and they're so cheap on Facebook Marketplace. Usually $10 for a dress, including shipping. I mean, how can you not have eagles on for all of the days leading up to the 4th of July, the American 4th of July, the Independence celebration? All that coming up. Sorry, suffering through. Yeah, fairly cool in South Texas. Yeah. It is just so it's so scary. I worry so much about the demographic of people who do not fare well in this extreme weather, and not everybody, of course, has air conditioning. It's scary. It's scary. I'm constantly thinking about the pets and all that, drinking water, and trying to stay healthy because it's fairly extreme, and it's still June, which is quite a thing, isn't it? But historically, I am very alarmed about the ozone. Of course, I am. It is a very real problem, and that's the reason we get such cold colds and such hot. But at the same time, you know, when I think about history and all the history reading that I do, historically there has been crazy weather through the years, extreme highs and lows, and I know historically it's rained every single day of the year at Yellowstone Park at one point or another. There's always we have a very worrying weather situation. You know, there is a climate change, no question about that. But you know, it is just one of those things. Especially, I think in New England we get such crazy extreme weather. It's historically always been hard, and I think it's extra hard this year. So I hope that you are faring well and that you're making out all right, and everybody is safe. There's so much crazy news. The building collapsed. There's so much crazy news happening. We'll see what happens next. Hopefully nothing bad. So listen, the 4th of July is coming. That's why I'm wearing my eagle print dress. It just came in the mail. So for the 4th of July, I was working on a July pattern that celebrates the 4th of July. Of course, you're not going to have it done for the 4th of July, and I'm not going to have it done for the 4th of July. But it is a pattern I was telling Kirsten this morning I've had major kind of a struggle with. It's an eagle. Let me show it to you. It will be one of the July patterns I put out. I know I want to put out another one, and that's a to be continued. But I wanted to put out July certainly for the 4th of July. Now this is how far I've gotten with mine. And when I hung it over the back of the chair, it's only partly done, as you can see. When I hung it over the back of the chair, I realized that my color palette is very close to something else we see all the time. Isn't that funny? Is this one of these subliminal nutty things that happens? It's really the exact same color palette. The browns, the yellows, the blues, and this weird cherry red is that. I think I have been subliminally training myself to copy the colors on this rug that you know I just picked up and I love very much. I just thought, what a weird turn of events. So I have struggled hugely with this. I'm taking out this banner down here. I was doing individual sort of stripies, and I don't like that. I'm going to make more solid stripes, probably just blue and white. And around the edge, you can see I'm going a little bit rogue with. Let me show you closer up. Like I've got some mauve going, some sort of antique mauves, the cherry red. I have many different reds. I've got a lighter kind of in between gray and mauve. And I'm going to be putting different colors around the edges. I was telling Kirsten what I struggled with was the color. So I had it in my head, you know, I wasn't thinking that I had been affected so much by the rug behind me, but I have. You know, I was thinking about past times, and I was thinking about Cape Cod, and I was thinking about how when I was growing up, wherever you went, if you checked into some kind of a campy cabin for, you know, your summer vacation, they would always have something like a big picture, painting or tapestry of an eagle, and it always in the 70s had a gold background with lots of brown, red, and blue, right? So these are not my colors. Brown, gold, red, and blue are, I think, my least favorite colors. So I added in colors that I also like these colors. Mauve and like a light mauve and like a more dusty rose. Those kinds of confusing in between colors that I always go to that are the dulls, you know, that will pop the brights. So I was working away on that, and it has been a bit of a thing. And I, at the end of the day, I ripped out the background, the gold background behind the eagle many times. And you know, I like it. I do like it. It's like it's two colors. It's a bit too stripy here. I'll probably pull that out too. But the general background is like sort of a gold, an antique gold with spot. I did some spot dyes of like bronze, green bronze, all the old Cushing colors. And I was thinking about those pictures that you used to see in all those cabins. And if you went out to eat at a family style restaurant, they always had like wooden walls and a picture of an eagle with a gold background, just like this. And that's what I was thinking. So I'm like, let me draw something just like that, but let me put around the edges, you know, a little bit of it. I changed it from this. I changed it. So two things. I changed it. I originally had the laurel and the arrows. It was too fussy. So what I did with mine was I took them out. It was for me, it was just too fussy. I'm putting in 2020 right across the front like this. I haven't finished it yet. I was just fooling with it right up until bedtime last night. You can see I've got the 20 here. I'm still experimenting with colors. And it'll say 21 on this side where the laurel was. I found it just too, number one, predictable, number two, fussy. So what I wanted to tell you that I haven't had time to do yet is this pattern is going up as a free pattern. The free pattern is going to be different. It's going to be the one I'm hooking. Again, I took out these two elements and I put in the banner underneath of just stripes going down. Oh, you have Canada Day tomorrow. Oh, so it was Victoria Day a while ago, and Canada Day is different. I'm getting it, Anita. You know, I'm going to have to look at that and think about what I can do for Canada Day. I wonder if I have time to do something for Canada Day. Holy mackerel. Okay, let me think about that. So I'm going to remind you again tomorrow, but the Eagle is going up as a free download. I will be bringing it out as a kit. I pulled out all of his brown multiple times, the Eagle's body, and just pull the needles out with noodles, put the noodles into a dye bath of a darker brown. I'm using almost all Cushing colors on this because I associate sort of Cushing, old-fashioned colors, historical colors. So I'm using all sort of very old-timey colors, all Cushing colors to do this kit. It will be available as a kit if you want to do it the way that I'm doing it with this color scheme. I do like having the option of having a bit brighter colors around the edge and these little bubbles with a star. A chance to brighten it up if you don't want it all traditional the way that I'm hooking it in these colors. But that is available right now on ribboncandyhooking.com as a free download. It will remain there. You are perfectly welcome to go download it, hook it any size you want. It is yours for free and it will stay there for free. I want everybody to be able this weekend, celebrating the 4th here in the US, to have a nice patriotic pattern if you want one. And I have not put a free pattern up in a while, and I feel badly about it because I know not everybody is in a money situation where you can just be hemorrhaging cash all the time buying supplies. So I always mean to put more free patterns up, and I felt I had to put this one up. Again, I will work on it a little bit more, and it will become available as a kit if you want to hook it the way I'm hooking it, in that sort of nostalgic, classic eagle look. But if you just want the pattern, you can go there today and get it. After I sign off with this video, I will put the link to it. I'm sorry I haven't done that. I will put the link to it in this video. So if you are not on Facebook, you can check back 10 minutes after the video, click it, and get that pattern for free. It is yours, and I hope that if you are celebrating the 4th of July, that you'll enjoy it. It is a fun pattern, and you know, I did it thinking about these old gold-driven examples that I saw of the same eagle every place you ever went. But you could equally do it in sort of vintage polyminic type colors, the faded pink, the faded blue, denim colors, off-white, creamy colors. You could do it in wild electric colors, like, you know, black background, maybe some fireworks shooting up, or there's so many different things you can do with it. But I hope that you enjoy it. And, oh, sure, no problem. I'm sorry it's been so long since I've put up a pattern. So that is up, and I'll just remind you the Elizabethan patterns are up. I keep forgetting to show you the Tavern Sign of Shakespeare that comes as a free 5-a-tape pattern with the Elizabethan set. That's selling really well. A couple other bits of business I want to do before. I know you see this excellent thing behind me, so let's save that for tomorrow. That's another excellent thing that came in the mail that I want to do a little bit more research on. Couple other things. I was thinking about Friday night cocktail night. I am still thinking about an auction, but again, with my shoulder, I'm just not in the storage rooms schlepping right now. Everything is like just too painful. So that is coming up, but I was thinking about commentary for just a straight cocktail night this coming Friday. And I've been thinking about working off of this book. And I'm putting out a sort of plea. Do you have this book, Hook Drugs of the Midwest? Number one, do you have this book? Do you know anybody you know, involved in the making of this book that you could refer me to? Because I don't think I have any contacts with anybody in this book. It was put out by History Press, which is my #1 all-time favorite. They are the ones that do all the histories of department stores, histories of restaurants, defunct theme parks, Howard Johnson's, every kind of fantastic local history. And they do a lot with crafts lately too. So History Press put this out. It's a fantastic book. I would love to be in touch with somebody who was involved in the making of this book, because I'm going to plug it in a huge way. And I just wondered if I could get a bit of a more personal angle, if anybody knows anybody. The 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? So, incidentally, you are one of the degrees because my piano player, when I was a cabaret singer, now plays with Kevin Bacon. So, I guess that's one generation out. And so, you are, by default, two generations out. Can we find somebody as close as Kevin Bacon to this book, even more importantly? And you know, I wrote to Jennifer this morning at Jennifer might be on at the Facebook group that's called Midwest Rug Hookers. I love that group, and I've mentioned it before on this show. Do you know that group? Even if you are not in the Midwest, Midwest Hookers, I absolutely love it. It is one of the nicest, most friendly rug hooking groups on Facebook. And you know, it's one of those groups that I feel like when I go to that page and I go into that group, I feel like it's the difference between, for example, you know, when you are taking the train and you find some cute country station in this beautiful old-timey Victorian little train station that's got flower pots outside, and you go in and they sell you your ticket and everyone smiles and you just feel good about it, as opposed to, example, Grand Central Station. That's what the Midwest Rug Hooking Group feels like to me. It feels like going into this cozy place where everybody's very friendly, super amount of talent on that page too. In any case, I wrote to Jennifer, who's an admin on that page. Jennifer, it might actually be your page, I'm not sure. But she didn't know anybody that was involved in this book. And I would like to use this book. If you are in the Midwest, if you belong to any of the Midwest rug hooking groups, please, if you have time, write to me on Facebook or send me a message at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com, because I'd like to get a more personal take on rug hooking in the Midwest. I know I don't have a ton of time, but I will devote quite a few hours tonight, tomorrow, and Friday morning to getting a great episode going for Friday. So I could use some help with that. You have that book too, April. Okay, it is a great book. I love a more personal touch, and I love to be in touch, with the author. Thanks, Anita. To let them know that I'm covering the book, and to find out if there's any more little things that were cut out of here that maybe I could say with the time. I'm always on for a good hour and a half, that I could add that would be interesting and special. So I'll look forward to getting any emails on that you might be able to share. Now today we are looking at, I wanted to show you some of these frost patterns. They're so good. They're so good. And don't you, maybe you don't, but I always thought about, when I think about frost, I think very old-timey patterns, lots of florals, the occasional deer, maybe like a Staffordshire style dog, lots of that. Now there is lots of that. It's mostly that, but there are some other things in the sort of quintessential frost catalog that are amazing and interesting and bordering on shocking, unexpected shocking. So I ordered this book off eBay, and of course it was through this Charlotte Stratton connection, right? Because she owned the Frost Patterns for so many years, the stencils, the Yankee Peddler shop in Greenfield, Mass. Now, it says right at the beginning, like a typed message that's put into the cover of this book that says, this is from Frost Patterns, Henry Ford Museum, Greenfield Village, Dearborn, Michigan. Few people in the past century have done as much as Mrs. Charlotte Stratton to preserve and revive interest in the venerable craft of rug hooking. She not only rescued the famous frost stencils from oblivion and once again made the patterns available to hookers, but she also shared with generations of hookers her knowledge of the technique of hooking, as well as her original pattern designs. And then it goes on to talk a little bit more about her, but that's a nice tribute that they bothered to slide into the cover of the book. It also gives us a price list here. 1960, the prices for the patterns, at least for the chair seats, were $1 each. And you would order them, of course, by sending a check in an envelope and saying what number pattern you wanted, however many dollars it was, and a few cents for shipping, stuff like this. I missed this by a hair in terms of my age is 49. I missed this by a hair, where you would work off these kinds of sheets, and I just want it back. I am done with pressing buttons with PayPal. I want this back. So this is a catalog. What is a hooked rug? A lot of things I won't go into here. I showed in yesterday's thumbnail the frost patterns set out like that. They're set out like in a filing system with their sides, like in little slices facing us. A bunch of, it just makes me crazy just to look at that image. All those little metal plates that you could pull out and see what that design was. What heaven would that be, right? So I am in touch with the Henry Ford Museum, by the way. That's a huge to be continued. I'm not letting that fall through the crack. I've got quite a few things going. But what is a hooked rug? Our suggestions for making perfect hooked rugs. Advertising, of course, Charlotte Stratton's lacing sets we talked about yesterday to bridge the gap on the sides of a floor frame. Charlotte Stratton also, and also her hooks, of course. She put out for a while, along with her painting with rags sort of theme, right? Her hook was part of that whole category, painting with rags, and she put out a large number of swatches, painting with rags. Now, I just want to say as a side note, because I have a guilty conscience, if you are on the rug hooking buy and sell page, which you know I have super mixed feelings about, I have been a pig on that page overnight because a lot of people were listing swatches. And it occurred to me all of a sudden, I have bought swatches. I have had crazy amounts of swatches go through my hands. And when I say go through my hands, I've done what you're supposed to do with them and cut them up and use them in my hooking. And it occurred to me looking at the swatches that popped up on that page last night, it occurred to me that that's a piece of history too. So I bought as many as I could. I have to put my phone down once in a while as life happens, but I'm going to get as many brands of these swatch sets as I can, put them in some kind of display case that closes, huge, right, in my dyeing area. Number one is a reference to the different kinds of dyes, particularly the Cushing dyes that I have, but also just that moment of time. You go to Door, there are not that many swatches anymore. You go to rug hooking stores, they have the swatches that they have left, but they're not stocking new swatch sets. They're getting harder to find, and I'm afraid that that moment in rug hooking history where everything was swatch driven is going to go, and there's not going to be a lot of evidence of it. So that is the reason I was pigging out on swatches last night. I wasn't doing a me first, me first, me. You'll never see me in any post, even if it's a frost stencil. I just cannot write me and have that be it. I have to write a sentence like, I would really love these. If these are available, I would like to. I try not to be a pig on those pages. I try to be a bit decent, but the competition is fierce. And of course, once I have the whole swatch thing set up, I will share it with you. And we'll spend some episodes looking at how swatch sets from different makers like Charlotte Stratton correspond to specific dye lines and specific dye colors. So she did a series of swatch sets that were called potpourri sequences. She didn't call them swatch sets. She called them potpourri sequences. That sounds so much better, doesn't it? Swatch set and potpourri sequences. I mean, it's so inviting, isn't it? I have no potpourri sequences, but they went by the names of, for example, Carnation Pink, Garnet, American Beauty, Talisman, Rust, some typical ones, but Aqua Blue, Red Grape. I love Red Grape. That's one of my favorite cushion colors. And it describes what, that's what I was thinking, Cynthia, and Kirsten was getting me going on that too today, saying try to save as many, original things as you can for future idea of, if not having a museum, if I never get that far, at least doing some home run displays at local libraries and stuff where people can really see what the equipment has been over the years and how important looking at it is. So it's so neat to go through this book because I haven't dyed my hair yet. I see it, so I know you see it. Because not only the patterns, but the different supplies. This one is gorgeous. You have to look at this. No names on these patterns, right? Potpourri sequences and then no names on the patterns. Charlotte, really? This pattern, come on, this should have the best name ever. There's some big, fat, like bunches of hydrangeas in the middle. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful colors. It's a hearth rug shape, elongated, and it's called number 152. But it is a beautiful pattern. So these are all frost patterns in this catalog. Let's look at some of them. I wanted to look at the Rug Hooking magazine because, of course, a new issue came last week along with a fantastic book by Victoria, I think, Rudolph, that's called Foundation Magic. We will cover maybe both of those things next week because I'm certainly going to run out of time. Let's look at some of the more important images in this book. When you see the first ones, you can be pretty sure that these are the images that Frost did. Remember, just line drawings, no color, with a stencil that would be cut into a quarter or a half, usually a quarter, and then you could mimic it through the other 3 quarters, right? You would just move it and reverse it and have the full pattern. Many of his patterns, his first patterns, were line drawings until he was able to figure out a system of pre-printing some color. Here's a beautiful eagle that he did over here. And I think one of the remarkable things about this eagle is this border, right, with the like oak leaves and acorns. That is another gorgeous eagle. It's got a very Western sort of Grand Teton range in the background. Very, very different. The eagle kind of flying on the shields, like the American, the emblem that was set up by the founding fathers, as if it's a flying carpet. You know, it's very whimsical. Lots of flowers, but when you look at these even black and white pictures, you can get a real sense. Number one, the amount of shading, the amount of success he had shading these burlap patterns, I think is astounding. You can't see the color, but you can see that within every shape, there is multiple depth, tone, color represented. And this would be a very good cue for you with a colored pattern. You wouldn't have to copy it exactly, and if you did, it would be very literal, and it would not have crazy shading, right? Because he doesn't have infinite shading. He goes from one color to the next because of his early printing process. But I think there's still this duck one too. Very good examples, just in black and white, of what the feel of the piece was meant to be. Look at the feel of the ducks, very soft and brushy, as opposed to the tangle of plants down at the bottom, that graceful sweep of cattails. Composition-wise, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. And if you notice, it has 4 corners. You're really only catching the top 2, but there are 2 bottom corners too. And you know, it would be up to, I think, each rug hooker to decide if they wanted to keep the 4 kind of photograph corners on it or just the top 2, because the bottom 2 blend beautifully into the composition. These are the kind of frost patterns I think that are most identified. The stags, the dogs, I love the ducks too, Kirsten. And then all the florals, right? All the florals. So let's move forward to some that are a bit unexpected. Let's see if we can surprise ourselves here. This one's a bit surprising. This is what quilters would call an attic windows pattern, the geometric. There we go. Now, he softened up the geometric shape with the corners, the stars on the corners, still very, very quilt inspired. But around the border, he's using this like falling leaf pattern, which is more of a rug hooking motif than traditionally a quilting motif. And on this one here, he's borrowed what looks like a variation on a Greek key, right? It's not interlocking, it's not a Greek key, but it is a strange contrast having that very Victorian, lush flower medallion in the middle, and then this very graphic, sort of Greek-looking, heavy, heavy line border around it. Unexpected contrasts. I would never presume to judge a frost pattern the way that Charlotte Stratton did with her vast knowledge and experience, first-hand experience handling the stencils. But I will remind you that she said not all of his patterns were incredibly effective in terms of design competition. But having said that, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? Something different for each person. I might not want these stars, you know, with me all of the time. That looks like more to me of a painted floor cloth than a rug design. I'm not saying it's not successful. You might have a star theme going in your little summer cabin or in the floor of the bathroom, and this would be the perfect pattern for you. So I would never say that one pattern is more successful than another, but of course it all goes according to taste, and there's a huge variety here. We've got the dog and the cat both on the kind of gingham check, plaid gingham kind of check, ground. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Lots of very traditional florals. And again, like I've said before, if there's one thing I will admit to, it's getting floraled out. Floral patterns with a floral border. I get floraled out fast. Now look at this. Talk about something different. Doesn't this remind you of Helen Albee's classic motif with the 2 sideways sitting diamonds with a checkerboard in the middle? Now, I did that. I did a spin on this exact pattern, but Helen Albee's, for the Albee pattern set. If you ordered that swatch set, you got this in fiber tape, right? But it wasn't this one with the crescent moons. Has shades of like a fraternal organization. But I think this pattern is exciting, exotic. I don't know what the meaning of those little spider shapes are down there, but there is something very different going on. This one is just called a Turkish pattern, number 102. These are very, very different. Yeah, you would get dizzy, wouldn't you, Kira? And you know, like this too, I don't know if you caught that one at the bottom, combining symbols and keeping the florals and the scrolls in the border. It's almost like putting your foot in the water when it's super cold. You know, you keep part of what is a traditional and accepted rug hooking composition, but you're experimenting with the other part. Either you make the border crazy and you keep the center traditional, or you make the center crazy and you keep the border traditional. It is a way of testing the waters, isn't it, with a pattern? Now, this pattern here, I got all excited when I saw this one, the basket with the heavy scroll, because it reminded me of this call that I made in bingo this past Friday. I thought for a second it was this rug. This is one of the antique rugs I called. And I thought, holy molies, that's the rug, but it's really not. It's really not, but it's close. You can see how close people could get with each other's patterns. So this one I'm holding is not a frost pattern. It could be an original or whatever, but the frost pattern, you can see there are many elements to it that are quite similar. It could be that there's borrowed inspiration. That's what inspiration's for, is to borrow it, lend it, give it out, and share it, right? That's the definition of it. This is another one that's kind of a hybrid, the strawberries, experimenting with this sort of feather scroll. A little more berries around the edges, more like cherries, but interesting, right? Hey, Wendy, interesting. And then over here, we've got some more sort of what they would then call Oriental designs. We tend not to say that anymore because we tend to know the difference between, different Eastern European countries. But these are they're calling these Turkish patterns. They certainly have the feel and the flavor. You can imagine what these colors are going to look like. If you saw these patterns, would your first thought be Edward Sands Frost? Because to be honest, my first thought would be Jane McGowan, because she did so much with this kind of pattern. It just goes to show nothing new under the sun, right? That old tagline from the Bible, it's so true. Frost did all these kinds of things first. Again, two very geometric patterns, very geometric. Unexpected, right? These, I don't think, would ever be patterns that somebody would put into the front room. These would be for, like they always tell us in early 20th century books, kitchen, upstairs bedrooms, bathrooms, things like that. And, burlap floor on the floor of a bathroom is probably one of the reasons we've lost so many patterns over the years. I'm going to run over just a little bit, but I want to look at this book together and get our fill with it. I'll show you this here. I mean, how gorgeous is that? I'll tell you, if this pattern came up, this one down here on rug hooking buy and sell, I would be the person that writes me with an exclamation point on it. I'm so bad. What's wrong with me? But there are some very interesting hybrids in here. All of these, I think, fall into the category of interesting hybrid. This is some real experimentation going on. This is a marked effort to get away from the Victorian floral. And even when he's using the Victorian floral, you can see he's really moving away from it. If you think about what the style of art and decoration was at that time, the sort of Gothic Victorian period moving toward the end of the Victorian period, we were introducing a lot of ethnic rugs, imported things, imported wares. And you do get that influence on rugs too. You are reluctant to throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of the bouquet in the center, but you are seeing a lot more rugs with these heavy, heavy, very specific geometric borders. And you are seeing more rugs like this that do have fraternal organization overtones. The Masons one with the compass, of course, is very obvious, but there's more in this book. That one's more traditional. There's more in this book that hint toward chains and the Oddfellows. Remember, the chain can also symbolize the telegraph, right? The telegraph wire. So sometimes it's hard to know the difference between the reference to the telegraph wire with a chain or the fraternal organization called the Oddfellows with the chain. It'll be one of the two, right? But sometimes it's hard to know which one. Let me show you a couple more before we sign off. Here's more Turkish patterns that I think are extraordinary. I mean, aren't those gorgeous? They really are so pretty. I've said it before, everybody feels differently and has unique preferences. I've never been attracted to the Turkish rug as done by, for example, Pearl McGowan or Jane McGowan, because I feel that it looks exactly like a Turkish rug done by, for example, somebody in Turkey that is exported. And at that point, I think I'll buy a Turkish rug. So it's always seemed to me to be a lot of time and thought put into rugs that look like they could easily be woven rugs and not hooked rugs. But looking through this catalog, I have to say my feelings change because when I look at these Turkish designs, they are very, very different. They're very different. So yeah, things change. And isn't it nice when they do? Don't you love to surprise yourself by feeling the sort of underground stream chugging along and your feelings changing about anything? That's another beautiful color pattern up top, but it's not in color. Invent a symbol for the cell phone. That would be funny. That would be funny. That is cute. Remember I did that free pattern over Christmas that is still up there that was like all the different gloves and hands, the height of COVID, right? And they all had, it was like a string between all the mittens connecting them all, but it was more like a telephone wire because they were coiled up to show like even though we were all over the place, that many of us were hooking that pattern at the same time. That was really fun. I didn't finish mine, of course, so maybe I'll go back to that this winter. But a few more real specific designs. You can see how heavy his pattern catalog is in Turkish-inspired designs. Now, I can't say like in terms of proportion there are X amount or this percentage of florals versus geometrics, but there are way more geometrics, at least in this catalog, than I ever thought. And looking through this catalog really changed my impression of what the frost stencils are. And again, exciting. And then you get things like this, right? Again, these are a bit like what we just saw, but these over here, we've got a cross, like a cross memorial type rug, covered with flowers. And then we've got the sort of nautical, and again, it almost looks like a memorial covered with flowers. Two very specific patterns, very specific. And you could see these being really appealing to someone, very meditative, sort of cathartic to hook something like that for someone who's passed. Just very curious to find them in a catalog of patterns this old. Again, more chains and oddfellows, more lodge symbols. So what a thing it would be going through a catalog like this in 1960, thinking about, for example, the men in your life and what you might hook for Christmas or hook for the front room that they wouldn't object to. This is a very different one too, I would say. And little pictorials like the old oaken bucket. That's a classic old one. For me, that's not one of my favorite compositions by any means, but that is one that you see come up again and again, hooked. So yeah, it was just, this is the last page. There's a lot more pages, but I just showed you some that I thought were more interesting. But, you know, different. It's different than what I thought. I wonder if it's different than what you thought, the frost patterns. I kind of expected that if I were the lucky person standing at that display of stencils, all the metal facing you and shining, glittering, and you pull one out like a vinyl record, I would expect it 9 out of 10 times to be a floral. But according to this book, like the comprehensive catalog of designs, frost designs, a lot of them are not. I would say at least half of them have some kind of an element that surprised me. Heavy, heavy geometrics usually, or subject that surprised me. So I thought very different than what I thought. I was very happy that I got that book in the end because it was another piece of information in my head, you know, relating to frost that I thought really tidied up, gave a shape to the early commercial patterns, the first early commercial patterns, right? Possibly Blue-Nosed Garret. Of course, we don't know which ones were absolutely first because they were so close in time. And some of these might be Garret patterns at the end of the day, and some of the Garrets might be frost patterns because we just don't know. But in any case, that is what the frost stencils are all about. I'm going to change the title of this video when we log off. And when we log off, I will give you the link to the free pattern, the Eagle, so that you can get hooking on that if you want, transfer it or whatever. Do whatever you want with it. You can always alter my patterns. You never have to ask me if you can alter my patterns. I always appreciate if you say it's my pattern, but if you don't think of it, I'm not going to come after you. It's not going to be a thing. It's not going to be a thing with us. It just doesn't matter. The main thing is that everybody who wants to do something sort of patriotic for the 4th of July, wants to be sitting on the 4th, hooking something patriotic. That's always what I like to do it on the day. That you have something to do. If you haven't planned forward, you can maybe get this transferred quickly with a sulky pen. Maybe you have some fiber tape. Maybe you're going to do the window thing. But it'd be nice to have something to work on if you're looking for something. And Anita, in the meantime, I'm going to check out Canada Day. What is wrong with me that I didn't know that? I constantly check calendars, but Canada Day isn't on my calendar. Isn't that awful? or in my diary either. So I will see you all tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Oh, I won't see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Zoom. So I'll also put up a link to our Zoom call for tomorrow. And if you feel like it, pop on. I'll probably Zoom for an hour. We always Zoom for 2, sometimes 3 hours, which is crazy. But I'm catching up on a lot of stuff now and getting some momentum going on some more projects. But I will definitely Zoom tomorrow. So I'll put up that information and then the link to the free pattern if you haven't already found it on ribboncandyhooking.com. And I will see you on Zoom tomorrow. Otherwise, cocktail night, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are a Midwest hooker, if you know a Midwest hooker, please put them in touch with me. I'd love to do a Midwestern theme for Friday night. Celebrate all of the hookers in that part of the country that do exemplary, gorgeous, inspiring work. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.